Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about an extension of the video on DIY, but just briefly, let me mention some recent experiences in the world at large. I'm a huge fan of saving money, so I went to Mickey Donald's with the app. They had a large iced coffee for 99 cents. Too much sugar, but if you stretch it out over about 4 days, which I did, not too bad. It keeps well in the refrigerator. Also had a blueberry pie that does not come highly recommended. Something occurred with this staff. Either there was an exodus going to college, but Pooja's gone. Allison Hannigan, have not seen her lately, so maybe she rage quit. At this point, you've got older women and this chick who has a buzz cut, a little bit pudgy at the front counter. But I had finished up my feast, and I'm looking to exit, but you have an adjoining parking lot, and this car was coming. They had the right of way, puttering along to the extent that I figured maybe it's a senior citizen, the way they were driving. I was simultaneously triggered and jealous because I realized they're far more successful than I. They were in the driver's seat of a Chrysler 200. They go down to the end where you're going to exit the entire complex, and there's two-way traffic. So, he's got his left turn signal. Tick, 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 tick. I'm trying to go to the right. There was a little bit of a space where I suppose I could have got in if I wanted to turn that direction, but I figured, okay, he's going to go, then I'll have a better vantage point of stuff coming from my left. But nothing happens. And you can kind of see it with tinted windows, but you could tell person in the front, they're bobbing up and down a little bit. I get we've all been guilty at a green light, you get distracted, but not as it stretches, especially when you have a situation of that nature where you've got traffic both ways. You want to take the opportunity you have. But yeah, the head would come up and then it would drop down and it continued to occur. I said, maybe it's someone on the down low, but in either case, why not go to some gas station or stay in the McDonald's parking lot or the other place and just pull into a corner, have your secret liaison, look at your phone, and call it quits? But this was going on. And normally you say, oh, just slam on the horn. I have to admit, I was a little bit distracted. I was thinking of that song, Care Bear Boy, you've got your feet in GA, but your heart's in Tel Aviv. Also, and that might sound paranoid, but not really if you consider what's been happening in my area of late, plus the news, a lot of folks crashing out over silly stuff. I said, I don't know if this is one of those types that is waiting for an excuse, and I don't have a lot of space to maneuver my vehicle, which is on the larger side. I'm not wearing a ballistic t-shirt, and I was not carrying. I've been trying to re-up my permits, but the local bureaucrats are all these triple XL tube top bumpkins who will not help you with anything. Their hours suck. You have to use snail mail. And then they were telling me your application's rejected because you have to send us a copy of your previous permit. The permit, which, mind you, they have in their government system, the police have access to, but they don't want to print it out or just check it. So they make you do all this mind-numbingly stupid bureaucratic circus. Well, after about three iterations where he could have turned, I said, screw it, I'm going to go to the right. And I start moving. At this point, the truck behind me mashes on his horn. Again, you see the head pop up and goes back to the phone. I pull up next to it, as I mentioned. The windows are a little dark, but you get a sense, oh, okay. It's one of those, it was a young man, and what do the Zoomers call that hairstyle? It's all the pedipalps sprouting on top. And I was like, what would possess you to just be annoying? I can understand if a person is road raging towards you, but what would cause you to say, I'm just going to sit there and block a turn when I full well know I can go? So maybe someone can explain to me what was the case there. Is it centuries of systemic racism? I don't know, but I don't grasp that personally, why you would just impede and annoy folks for no reason. Before I returned home, I stopped by the gas station. It used to be run by Bangladeshis. Now I think it's Afghans. I heard that smoke is useful against mosquitoes. And I walk in, the associate is in a corner of the store, crouched down, almost like he's hiding from something. I went, hey man, do you guys have any Swisher sweets? Eh? You know, the cigarillos, Swisher? Eh? And he proceeds to the main register as though he's going to ring me up. Behind him, you see Swisher, Swisher, Swisher. I was like, see right there, Swisher Sweets. Eh? See the red package, Cigarillo Swisher Sweets? Eh? Where are these low IQ Pashtuns coming from? There must be a government program to staff all these businesses. I mean, I could probably run a gas station better, if only because I know what Swisher Sweets are. On another day, keeping to the theme of trying to conserve money, I was going to go to this KFC because they said 30+% cash back. So I headed to the location, but it was super ratchet, small spot, only drive through, and it seemed everything was out from their menu. But I had another opportunity and I go, this looks on Google a better spot. Maybe I can sit there, do my thing, kill some time. Well, you pull up and you park, and they have, I guess, the main entrance, double doors. Pull on them, they're locked. There's some older Latino guy in the uniform eating his dinner, looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? So I go around to the other side of the building, as in the corner, and there's another door. Pull on it, swings wide open as though there's no stop. There's this other Latino kid, also an employee, sitting there. Uh, we only have drive-through open right now. And this is maybe 8:30 at night. So I said, okay. I was going to just rage quit and leave, but I went, let's just, for the heck of it, the cash back. I need something light. I go to the drive-through and I got a sandwich, which, man, KFC's gone downhill majorly. I also went for those mashed potato poppers. Those were garbage. And I honestly, unless you're going to get fluoridated water, most of all their drinks are unhealthy. So I asked them for one of the little milks, the Shamrock style, which of course they said they were out of. And then, oh, magically they had them in the back. But he says, okay, it's going to be a few minutes. So just pull up to the front. And most restaurants, you pull up to the corner, they have a little door, they come out and hand you the item. So that's where I go. 2 minutes pass, 4 minutes, about 6 minutes. This kid comes around from the other side of the building where I'd first tried to go in, double doors. In future reference, you come and park there at the front. And I was like, those doors are locked. Yeah, but still in future, I'm thinking, yeah, that's not going to happen. I ain't coming back here. So it just is impressed on me. Why would you bother going out nowadays? Post COVID, everything is shut down super early. You can't just lounge anywhere. You know, most of the libraries even don't go till 8 or 9 p.m. anymore. The bars often close at 10 or 11. Retail stores are not open till 11 or 12 anymore. And you have these spots like the fast food where it's either staffed by foreigners or these Zoomers who act like you're a huge inconvenience if you come there to order food. They just want to collect a paycheck and do nothing. So yeah, I don't get it. The only chain that is halfway decent and consistent would be Starbucks. But I'm at this stage, I say I might, like I said, just make my own iced tea and they just go in there and chill because you like, what's the point of this economy? The incentive's gone. I mean, even the local cafe, I stopped going as much. That one Becky, I think she switched to manage their other location, so it's not as convenient. And the other women there, they're just these BBWs and they're not polite. Now, I'm going to be honest, and this is a crisis for me. It's no easy way to say this, but I can't make myself love BBWs. Now, maybe if a BBW, she was just on her knees, like going to town, but like I cannot fall in love with a BBW. So stop with all your indictments and criticism and all this nonsense. It's not biologically possible for Goldberg. Proceeding on with the video, I actually had to do an intervention because I felt something crawling up my leg. It was a yellow jacket, and if I had done nothing, it was going to proceed and potentially sting something else, make that swell, which would be nasty. Instead, I got it on the shin, and then I thought it was dead, stamped to death. Well, then it goes up under my shirt, gets me below the armpit. So I was nice. I edited out my response to that from the video. It also makes me think because I got back from Dollar General and that chick was there, but she was busy. She's going to take the trash out. And she says to the other lady, oh, I hope there's no bugs there. There are like wasps that sting me. So, will there be some, we have common ground to discuss?
The sad part is that we've been so trained by the internet, by the world at large, by experience, where whenever you see a woman you might have some interest in, and then you have a situation like, not that I could do much. I mean, the most effective thing, as mentioned before, would be smoke. It tends to ward the critters off. I didn't have a cigar on me. I guess I could have volunteered. Oh no, I'll throw it away so I get stung, milady, which is cringe. But that's the thing. You run the risk, even if it's self imposed mentally, of coming off as the white knight simp. There'd be nothing wrong with trying to help out, but you're always hedging in that way. How is it going to come off? Is it desperation? Is it like some weird attempt at gaining favor? I wish that's not how things were. I wish you could just innocently assist other people and it would not always have this strange veneer. With that being said, I had to do some dropship magic on the Rock Auto parts and tools because some of them were really not what I felt was adequate. The downside with Rock Auto, you get hit both ways with shipping. So in hindsight, Harbor Freight is preferable because you just take it and the return policy is quite good. But I assembled everything I needed and I'm prepped, everything's laid out. I jacked the car up, put the stands, which I got those from Amazon, the jack from Harbor Freight. I was like, all right, everything's going good. Remove the tire, no hassle. And you try to get to that caliper bolt. And it was more stubborn than your ex girlfriend on a bad day. I mean, I tried WD-40, I doused it multiple times with PB Blaster, I had the two-handed wrench with a mallet. There was some guy on YouTube, some Brit going, "Oh, you got to use a bottle jack on it to get leverage." I tried the regular ratchet. Breaker bar didn't quite fit because of the size of the wheel hump. And even the impact wrench, not terribly effectual. Finally, and this is some days later, we took the blowtorch to it and managed to remove. Then you have to go through all that process, and then you do the brake bleed, which is really a two-man job. So all told, it was probably 4 or 5 hours with some breaks in between to get this thing done. I wanted to note that when you look at videos with DIY, it's presenting the best case scenario in most instances. Things go well, you can get to it, you can remove, there's not all these different elements. And you might argue, well, you should have every 6 months go and spray lubricants into that area. Okay, fine, fair enough. Maybe some of you are very skilled and proficient with lubricant for more than just working on cars. What I'm trying to say is that it's not always what you anticipate. And the what I pointed out in the other video, the time thing, it starts to inflate and it could occupy far more than you realize. Even outside of working on vehicles, I was painting the cabinets in the kitchen and the handles are a different color. Most of them unscrew no problem. So then you can get to painting the primary base color of the actual drawer, but then you also do the handles separately. But there are certain ones that, that star has just been absolutely brutalized and pounded. That sounded wrong. And so your only answer is you got to take a little brush and try to paint it while it's still fixed there and hope you don't hit beyond it, maybe try to tape it off. So it's always that consideration. How much am I going to dedicate to this? And do I even have the space to get it done? But at least the brakes, calipers, and rotors have been addressed. I'm going to have to still do a headlight restoration and then oil changes coming up. I have what I need to perform it on my own. I actually purchased those Black Widow ramps. Some people say just jack it, don't mess with all that. I don't think the little plug for the oil is going to be nearly as bad as the caliper bolt because I get consistent oil changes. Beyond that, my other vehicle, so it's a little bit newer. The one I was working on mid 2000s, this one early 2010s, it's a little finicky. We did put the compressor in. I was hoping I could send that back to Rock Auto, but they were not able to figure out a workaround. And now you've got this somewhat funky smell coming out of the AC. As I understand, change out the cabin filter, easy enough, and then spray disinfectant in the air intake, run the system for a bit. I'll do that maybe next week or so because I'm about to go on vacation. But there was another thing that started to pop up, that little door contact nipple that's kind of squishy and sensitive. If you have the windows down and you're driving and you go over uneven surfaces, especially on the highway, it'll start freaking out like it says the door is ajar. The only answer in the short term is you have to keep the windows up and just run AC. I did come across something on a forum where you can get a vacuum cap and try to jerry rig it, but that becomes the problem. As we can see, the newer these vehicles are, the more problematic, to use a silly term, issues can be. And you want to get them fixed, it ain't cheap.
And so we must feather the question, just how badly did this inherited boomer model set up the masses and the population for the future, where maybe they're not used to doing things on their own time. They don't have that skill set, or perhaps they're incapable of it because of what they have to purchase. I'm not vehemently anti-boomer. Clearly, a lot of the DIY stuff we have, the segments available, was produced by such folks. And you can look at the first boomer president, Billy Boy Clinton. Yeah, he did NAFTA, but he also curtailed welfare. He reformed, or tried to, Social Security and Medicare, which would have allowed us to invest at least part of that money for higher returns and set us on a course, all things else being equal in terms of women not wanting to have kids. It makes more sense that you have your individual account instead of depending on future workers or just trying to increase taxes constantly to shore up the system. The reason it didn't pan out as in the reform effort is because a lot of the lost generation types were pearl clutching over a chubby Yenta giving the president a hand and the fact he lied about it. In my opinion, it isn't a reason to screw over future generations, but as stands, W. Bush was pretty terrible. Obama, was he boomer or Gen X? Acted like a boomer effectively. Now we have Trump. In the defense of the boomers, or at least whatever they had received from the priors, there is some merit to this structure. And just pause for a minute. You have a person working as an accountant or a lawyer. They drop off their car at a mechanic, they head to the office, and the people who are trained, their specialty is gears, they're going to fix the car. And this guy is going to give his unadulterated attention to his company and his processes. When he's off work, instead of having to allocate that time to fix this thing or do that, he can focus more of it on his family. Otherwise, and usually people who have to do everything on their own, it's a sign, one, that you have a very stratified society, or money's not going as far due to stuff like inflation, or you're lower income and you have no choice. It's kind of like the people who say they're minimalists. There's a handful who legit believe this philosophy works better for them, and there's many who choose to be a minimalist because they can dress up poverty that way, as though it's cool and it's edgy and they're higher IQ. But this paradise can only be maintained with some guardrails. You can't allow for unfettered legal immigration because then your kids and grandkids will be outbid by foreigners for the good jobs. You need to keep track of and limit this vast expansion of debt financing everything and the national budgets, which, in, again, Billy Boy Clinton's defense, he was one of the only presidents who got the financial house somewhat in order. You need to make sure healthcare is not spiraling out of control cost-wise. When everything becomes about maximizing shareholder profits and there's no consideration of what's the long-term impact, yes, it will begin falling apart.
Case in point, I was talking to this boomer. He's early 60s, has a government pension, has a nice retirement job. He's divorced, but I guess it wasn't that devastating to his finances. And I said, yeah, for young people, job market isn't that great. Ah, piffle. There's tons of people hiring. I see help wanted all over the place. They just don't want to work. I was like, well, yeah, but these are oftentimes subpar wages or they're ghost applications. They don't respond. They're gig, they're temporary, they inflate the numbers. And plus, you have the skyrocketing price of food, of housing. And he goes, well, that's because these people think they have to live in a high cost of living area. Just move out to the country. It's cheaper there. And I was like, well, still, cost of living, like you can't just, flip a wand and inflation goes away because you're in a rural area. Well, that's because they think they only have to work 40 hours a week. Why don't you start being a man, work 60? Look at these Hispanics, 7 days a week, 12 hours. They don't complain. Be like them. And then not a few moments later, they have on the TV the ICE crackdown, and he goes, if you come to this country illegally, you got to get the hell out. See, that's the mentality. They're living in this delusion where you can always farm out the jobs to someone else, but you can also have law and order, you can have homegrown manufacturing, and nothing has to give.
One of the popular counter boomer arguments online, and I emphasize it's online, people will go, we should have appliances that are just analog and last forever. We should have low technology trucks. And okay, that's legitimate. However, you have to keep in mind, usually the people boycotting or angry about the technology are on Twitter, are on YouTube. I can recall about 10 years back, I was an operator, and we had at our organization this really crappy F 150 that was about to die. And they got a Silverado that was newer, but it was bare bones, white, single cab, just a radio and AC. What the dealer was telling whoever purchased this thing is that no one wanted basic trucks. They preferred the four-door Silverado. It's super roomy with a huge computer screen, navigation, XM radio. You've got the tailgate that can move 5 different positions, and you can bang your lady upside down deck chair hanging from a trapeze wire in the bed. It's able to parallel park for you. No stress. Consumers gravitate towards this. You can claim it's a corporate conspiracy to make you a slave to the dealership, but it's not without some merit. I would even concede earlier this year when I had my other vacation, I rented a Kia Forte. And I'm not a big fan of the constant message, hey, you should take a break every 30 miles. But the lane assist and the warning if someone's stopping abruptly in front of you, features like those have probably saved countless lives and prevented accidents. So is it truly this heinous, diabolical scheme? You'll hear the complaints, if we could just import the Toyota Hilux. I believe it's environmental regulations that prevent those from coming in. But let's just suppose you had a super reliable pickup truck that everyone could work on and it didn't have these bells and whistles. At the same time, if you want the homegrown manufacturing, where's the profit incentive? You're going to create something that's going to last 10 years with routine maintenance, and so you can't get the folks coming back. That is the upside or downside. It's the trade-off, if you will. The corporation can keep putting out a new model, and you stay on the warranty, so most of your problems are taken care of. You just trade it in, so you have that protection. And it's superior to, well, from one perspective, having to know everything about your car and always doing work to it. The problem would be if we can't hold on to these good white collar jobs, and those individuals are used to just taking it to the dealership. Are they going to have the income to continuously trade for a newer model? Or will they have to stick with it? Okay, it's partially paid off, but now it exits the warranty period. Well, you are paying out of pocket, which is not cheap, or you're going to try to figure out how to do it yourself. But because of how high tech it is, for many people, that's a non-starter. You pop open the hood, everything's covered in plastic. You need special tools only the dealers have. Same thing with appliances. My understanding is there's a diagnostic device for HVAC that is over 10 grand because it's so advanced, and it used to be much simpler. At the same time, it's the thermostats today are fancier, supposedly more accurate, more user friendly. I'm just concerned we're going to have this squeeze where, unless the manufacturers can scale down to something that folks who have lower income are able to afford and do their own repairs on, how are they going to function? You don't have the good six-figure job in an office anymore. You go in the used car market and everything's 200,000 miles, 6 grand, and it needs 6 grand worth of work. That's the crucial part. Guys like myself, I can learn more stuff. People who have been doing it for years, no problem. You purchase older models, you can be okay. But these things that have been issuing the last couple of years, dude, it's extremely costly and not even necessarily doable for most people to keep them on the road. So, what do you guys and gals think of this society wide boomerism? Was it designed from the start to make you a prisoner, or did it have the right intention, but the obsessive pursuit of shareholder profits and short term gains undermined what could have been, at one point, a beautiful utopia?